Vegeta is one of the most beloved characters in the Dragon Ball series. He has one of the greatest character developments in anime, and he's also a part of one of anime's biggest rivalries with Goku. But despite the huge amount of praise he gets, he often gets criticized when it comes to his fights in Dragon Ball. People often say things like Vegeta loses every time he fights, or that Goku always steals the wins from Vegeta, and people say this as a reason to dislike Dragon Ball. But are these claims about Vegeta being a fraud really true? Well, in this video we're going to go through all of Vegeta's fights to see how many wins and losses he has in total, to see if he actually is a loser or not. So the series I'm going to include are Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, the Dragon Ball Super Superhero movie, and Dragon Ball Daima, because these were the projects that Toriyama was involved in, so I'm not going to include GT or Dragon Ball Heroes. So first off, we will start with his introduction, which is in the Saiyan Saga, and his first fight was against Goku in the Wasteland. I think this win goes to Vegeta because as soon as he went Great Ape, there was nothing that Goku could do against him, and if it wasn't for Krillin and Gohan, he would have killed Goku. Then after that, we go to Vegeta versus the Z Fighters, which involved Goku, Krillin, Gohan and Yajirobe. And this will be a loss for Vegeta because Krillin was about to kill him with the sword, but then Goku stopped him, which spared Vegeta's life. So that is one win and one loss in the Saiyan Saga for Vegeta. Then in the Namek Saga, Vegeta kills Kui on Namek, making it his second win, and then he also kills Dodoria as well, making it his third win. He then loses to Zarbon after he transforms, but then he gets his own win back due to the Zenkai boost, making it 4 wins and 2 losses so far. Then when we get to the Ginyu Force fight, he loses to Riku, making it 3 losses, but then he gets his 5th win against Jace. He then loses to Frieza and dies as a result. So by the end of the Namek Saga, Vegeta has 5 wins to 4 losses. Moving on to the Android Saga, he gets another win against Android 19 when he went Super Saiyan for the first time, but then he loses to Android 18 after she breaks his arm. So by the end of the Android Saga, he's at 6 wins to 5 losses. Then in the Cell Saga, we have Vegeta's fight against Second Form Cell, where he shows off his new Super Saiyan Grade 2 form, and he just casually beats him down with no effort, so this can count as a win for Vegeta. But then as soon as Cell achieves his perfect form, Vegeta immediately loses with an elbow drop. Then in the Cell games, he has a short fight against one of the Cell Juniors, but there was no victor in that fight, because Vegeta was only holding his own against him, so this will have to be a draw. So by the end of the Cell Saga, Vegeta is at 7 wins and 6 losses. In the Buu Saga, Vegeta's first fight was against Pui Pui, when they tried to stop Buu's resurrection, and he easily defeats him, making it his 8th win. He then has another fight against Goku after he becomes Majin Vegeta, and he did win this fight after pulling a sneak attack on Goku. Yeah, Goku did say he had Super Saiyan 3 at this point, but he still didn't use it, so it still is a win for Vegeta. So this will be his 9th win. And then immediately after, he fights against Majin Buu, who he couldn't beat, and even after his sacrifice, it wasn't enough to kill Buu, so this is Vegeta's first loss in the Buu Saga, making it 7 losses in total. And then after that, we move on to the fight against Kid Buu, where in order to buy time for Goku to gather energy for the Spirit Bomb, Vegeta fights against Kid Buu, and he does lose to him, making it his 8th loss. But also, if it wasn't for his idea of using the Spirit Bomb by using the energy of all the people from Earth, they wouldn't have been able to defeat Kid Buu. So you can probably count Kid Buu's defeat as a joint victory for Goku and Vegeta. So by the end of Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta has 10 wins and 8 losses, so most of his fights did end up as victories. Then when we go on to Dragon Ball Super, Vegeta's first fight was against Beerus after he slapped Bulma, and of course he does lose to him because Beerus is literally the god of destruction, so it does make sense why he would lose to him, and this gives Vegeta his 9th loss. Then in the Resurrection F arc, he kills Captain Ginyu, making it his 11th win, and he does also beat up Golden Frieza out of his golden form. But I can't really give this win to him since Frieza did blow up the planet last second, and it did actually kill Vegeta, but then Whis turned back time to where it never happened and instead Goku was the one that actually killed Frieza in the end. So this won't have an impact on Vegeta's record. Then when we go on to the Universe 6 versus the Universe 7 tournament, Vegeta gets 3 extra wins in this arc, and those were against Frost, Cabba and Vegeta, which makes it 14 wins, but he also loses once against Hit, making it his 10th loss. Then in the Goku Black arc, during his first fight against Goku Black, Vegeta loses once Goku Black turns into Super Saiyan Rose for the first time. Then in their second fight, he takes another loss. But in the third fight, Vegeta did have the upper hand, but then Goku Black still gets up after taking the beating. And then he goes on to fuse with Zamasu to become Fuse Zamasu, who then forces Goku and Vegeta to fuse into Vegeta. So I guess that can be another draw between their third fight. But then once Fuse Zamasu enters the fray, it is another loss because he was the one who forced Goku and Vegeta to fuse into Vegeta. So by the end of the Goku Black Saga, Vegeta is at 14 wins and 13 losses. Then moving on to the Tournament of Power, Goku and Vegeta knock out the Trio of the Dangerous from the tournament, and he also took part in the fight against Anilasa, who got eliminated. Vegeta also defeats God of Destruction Toppo with his Super Saiyan Blue evolution form, giving him 3 extra wins in the Tournament of Power. However, he does lose to Jiren twice, and it was the reason why he was even eliminated from the tournament. So this brings Vegeta to 17 wins and 15 losses by the end of the Dragon Ball Super anime. Then in the Broly movie, Vegeta has the upper hand against Broly in the beginning, but then the fight gets interrupted by Goku, so I might just have to count this as a draw. Then moving on to the Moro arc in the Dragon Ball Super manga, Vegeta loses to Moro in the beginning after he absorbed his ki, but he also gets the win against that Zarbon lookalike when he was training on planet Yardrat. Then in his second fight against Moro, after he learned Full Spirit Fission, he loses again, but then he was a major reason why Goku was able to kill planet Moro at the end. So this leaves Vegeta with 19 wins and 17 losses. Then in the Granola arc, despite achieving his new Ultra Ego form, he still lost to Granola, making it 18 losses. And this was due to Granola literally wishing to become the strongest fighter in the universe, so it does make sense why Vegeta would lose, so he shouldn't be looked at as a fraud or a loser because of that. But then at the end of the arc, Goku, Vegeta and Granola managed to defeat Gas by working together, and buying enough time for Granola to shoot the final blow, so I will count this as a win, making it 20 wins. But then as soon as Black Frieza comes in at the end, he gets one shot alongside Goku, so it is another loss for him. Then in the Superhero arc, he only has one fight against Goku, which was in a sparse session where they weren't allowed to use any transformations, but Vegeta still defeated Goku at the end in a comedic scene. So currently at Dragon Ball Super, Vegeta has 21 wins and 19 losses. And then moving on to the newest Dragon Ball series, Dragon Ball Daima, Vegeta has a few fights in the series. We first have his spar against Goku in the first episode, but then it did get interrupted once they turned into children, so I'm going to have to count this as a draw. His next fight was against Tamagami 2, where we see him use Super Saiyan 3 for the first time, and he defeats the Tamagami as a result. We then fast forward to the end of the series with King Goma as the final villain, where we see Vegeta turn into Super Saiyan 3 again as an adult, but then the fight gets interrupted by Bulma in a very funny scene, so there was no real victor in that fight. So this will have to be another draw. So after looking at all of Vegeta's major fights in the Dragon Ball series, his final record comes to 22 wins and 19 losses. So in total from his 41 major fights, he currently has a 54% win rate, which I would say is pretty good and balanced for a character who has taken part in so many fights throughout Dragon Ball. It's not too low for him to be considered a loser or a fraud, since most of his fights did end up as victories. And it's also not too high, which could have been a problem, since if Vegeta kept on winning, his fights would lack stakes and tension, and he would just become a boring character since you know that he's just going to win his fights. So I think this is a pretty good win record, but people tend to make it as if he loses all his fights, or that he rarely wins a fight, which is just far from the truth. And I think this outcry stems from the fact that Vegeta has never beaten a main villain before, because the only characters in Dragon Ball to have defeated the main villain in a solo fight are Goku and Gohan. And I think that just because someone other than Goku defeated the main villain by themselves, it means that Vegeta should defeat the main villain by himself, but that doesn't necessarily need to happen. Goku is the main character, so it always should be him to beat the main villain. Gohan was only a rare occasion, because even if you look at other battle shonen, it's always the main character that beats the main villain, but the side characters will face their underlings, which is still just as important. Or you can have fights where multiple characters work together to beat the main villain, instead of just having a solo fight. And Vegeta has always played significant roles in those types of fights. So no, I don't think Vegeta is a loser, or I don't think he's a fraud, and I hope this video changes your mind on how you see him as a character. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, please like, subscribe and share this video. Thank you guys so much for watching.